Oke, gimana nih Ibu Uninya? Ada yang bantu nggak supaya bisa muncul?
Aku sudah muncul, Bu. Miss you. Menang magang. Selamat jumpa, Bu.
Ya, selamat jumpa, Suster. Aduh, ternyata Suster itu imut-imut juga kayak saya.
Iya, Ibu lebih langsing, saya gemukan.
Oh, masa sih?
Yes.
Ya, sama-sama 45 ya? Oh, iya. Mas saya 42, cuma beda dikit lah. Udah happy sekarang, Suster?
Happy, tapi COVID-nya masih tinggi, Bu.
Oh iya, betul.
Tapi kalau social distancing nggak ada penyebaran dia.
Oh gitu. Sudah ini ya.
Mam Uni belum muncul ya, Bu?
Iya, ini. Kita sudah mau mulai nih.
Sukses. Senang sekali.
Makasih, Suster.
Ibu merangkul semua ya, merangkul ya.
Iya, kebetulan pelukannya besar.
Oh, lihat Ibu ke Makassar, kemana? Ibu Didi. Tapi ke Medan belum ya, Bu?
Iya.
Bu Lili punten, Bu Uninya masih trouble di laptopnya beliau. Sekarang tim IT kita lagi ke beliau karena beliau dari rumah. Kata beliau kalau mulai dulu, mangga nanti beliau nyusul kalau takut di waktu.
Soalnya beliau minta sambutan di aula.
Udah, kalau gitu tunggu sebentar ya Bu, ini lagi tim kita lagi ke sana untuk perbaiki IT di laptopnya beliau.
Lama gak?
Makanya tadi beliau kalau Ibu berkenan bisa dimulai dulu, nanti nanti beliau di selanjutnya gitu.
Oke, kita mulai saja. Ayo Mbak Manet.
Sebelum kita mulai, mohon izin menyampaikan perubahan kita. Jadi pembicara pertama Ibu Lili dan pembicara guest speaker pertamanya Ibu Yosi Oktri, dan untuk pembicara keduanya akan menjadi Ibu Dina Alfiana, dan kemudian pembicara ketiganya Din Minerva Diala. Jadi hanya
perubahan waktu.
Iya.
Karena masih ada trouble di PowerPoint-nya. Jadi susunannya dirubah sedikit, nggak apa-apa ya Ibu-ibu ya.
Berarti saya yang pertama ya Bu, materinya.
Ya, Yosi. Ibu Yosi.
Ya, waktunya berapa menit Bu?
30 termasuk tanya jawab.
Maaf Ibu, 30 menit presentasi dan 10 menit untuk
30 menit untuk presentasi, 10 menit tanya jawab. Kalau ada tanya jawab, kalau ada yang bertanya. Wajahnya ceria sekali. Oke, sudah 118. Kita mulai, Mbak Manet.
Sebelum kita mulai acara kita, kami ingin menyampaikan kepada semua peserta, jika ada pertanyaan bisa mengetik langsung di bagian Q&A. Jadi pertanyaan akan dibuka setiap pembicara selesai menyampaikan paparannya. Sekali lagi, kami akan memberikan kesempatan kepada semua peserta untuk bertanya dan mengetik pertanyaannya di bagian Q&A setiap pembicara selesai memberikan paparannya. Again, we would like to inform our participants for today's webinar. If you have any question, you may type it in the Q&A. We will give you 10 minutes for the participants if you would like to ask something to the presenter. Selamat pagi, magandang umaga. Good morning to everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone who are in this webinar. As of now, we have 125 participants, included the panelists and also the attendees. Our attendees for today, we have from different institutions or schools in Indonesia and in Philippines. In Indonesia, we have from Stikas Budi Luhur, we have from Stikas Hamzar, and also Stikas Elizabeth. I'm sure that there are the students from our speakers today, and I'm sure we have before we open this room, we have the register as around 521 expected, and I'm sure they are from different stickers as well. And also from the Philippines, thank you so much for attending this webinar. We have a lot of teachers, and also I saw some names here who attended the webinar from the beginning. I mean, from the May, June, and until now. Thank you so much for attending and supporting this webinar. And now, to open this program, may I request everyone to please stand and pause for a while for the singing of the national anthem of Indonesia and Philippines, and to be followed by the doxology in Islam and Christian.
Doa sebelum belajar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi zidni ilman warzuqni fahma. Artinya, ya Allah, tambahkanlah aku ilmu dan berikanlah aku rizki akan kepahaman.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above, ye heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Thank you so much. You may take your seats. To officially open this blended learning for nursing in Indonesia and Philippines, we would like to ask Dr. Lily Nurlaili to give her opening remarks and also to open this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Manet. Terima kasih, Miss Manet. Selamat pagi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Magandang Umaga. The Honorable Dr. Minerva, Dean of Philippine Women University, the Honorable Ibu Linda Tampu Bolon dari Medan, yang saya hormati juga Mbak Yosi Oktri dari Budi Luhur, yang saya hormati Ibu Dina Al this webinar. Until now, from the May until July, this is maybe around 25 until time I'm making a webinar. But the webinar not only for the Indonesian, but it is together because we are collaboration between Indonesia and then with Indonesia and Philippines. And then webinar is not only for nursing, but most of them is nursing. I'm making a webinar for the teacher, basic education, junior education, senior education, vocational education, for lecture in the higher education, and then for the student at higher education. And then maybe the theme is the same like last week or 2 weeks before, but the theme is the big theme. For the every speaker, they have a special or just a little theme for discuss today. And I hope this activity, this important thing for the nursing in Indonesia and nursing in Philippines, because we are sharing about what kind of blended learning for nursing, not only in Indonesia, but for Philippines. Yesterday I have activity, but not webinar. We call that is virtual nursing course, and then all of the speaker is from Philippine. And today is webinar. We are collaboration between PWU, Philippine Women University, and then BIN for Edu. BIN for Edu is around 150 ya. 150 universitas. Yeah, yeah, it is around that. And then collaboration with Attaché Education. And I hope this question and answer is a lot of question and answer. You just text in above is question and answer, and then the speaker will give the answer. Dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrohmanirrohim, saya buka acara hari ini. Terima kasih. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Thank you so much, Ibu Lily. And now, the webinar with the theme Blended Learning for Nursing in Indonesia and Philippines is now officially opened. Again, we would like to say thank you very much to the participants and also speakers who are attending this webinar. And hopefully everyone will be participating in the question and answer, or in the question, especially for the participants. And now let's hear a message from the president of the Stikes Budi Luhur and also for the BIN for Edu, Ibu Sri Wahyuni. Kepada Ibu, kami persilakan.
Ya, diam dulu. Ya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya, sebelumnya mohon maaf Bu, ada sedikit trouble ini. Oke.
Gak apa-apa.
Ya. Indonesia, Your Excellencies Dr. Lily Nurlaini, MED, thank you for always support us to develop our collaboration. Thank you, Ma'am. The Honorable Dr. Minerva de Ala, Dean of Nursing School, Philippine Women's University, the person who helping our faculty when they taking a masteral program in Philippine Women University. The Honorable Mrs. Yosi Oktri, IMKSSTM PD, MM, Vice President of Academic Affairs from Budi Luhur Institute Health Sciences. Honorable Nasdina Alfiana Ikhwani from Stikas Hamzar, thank you for collaboration. And Nurse Lindawati Farida Tampu Bolon, MCAP, and our beloved seminar participant from Indonesia and Philippines. Good morning, Magandang Umaga. The first, I want to say thank you for this opportunity. We know, first, let's all giving our thanks and praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the most merciful and compassionate, because for His blessing today, we could join together in international collaboration webinar from Education and Cultural Attaché of Republic Indonesia, and BIN for Edu with seminar theme Blend Learning for Nursing in Indonesia and Philippines. We know ASEAN community has been established years ago. It effective education in Indonesia, and with the opening global communication where 4.0 era, giving a chance for higher education from Philippines and Indonesia. and we must do effort to in realizing the improvement. Budi Luhur Science Health Sciences Cimahi established organized BIN for Edu Budi Luhur International Network starting 2014, and until now we have 132 higher education. And thank you for Mom Lily usually supporting us to develop our collaboration and our implement. And this activity is the program international webinar. We hope the call be an active effort of higher education institution in supporting the development of nursing education in facing and rapid advance to technology, especially in nursing. I would like to say welcome to international seminar. This is the first webinar from BIN4Edu, collaboration with Mom Lily, and hopefully the next webinar we can make the grow to make the best in the webinar. Thank you for Mary Antoinette Manet. Thank you for all. Thank you for our participants. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Ibu Sri Wahyuni.
Thank you so much, Ibu Sri Wahyuni, for the message. And now we will proceed for our first session, which is the keynote speaker. Our first keynote speaker is the Education and Culture Attaché of the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia. Before she was the attaché, she was the curriculum maker and developer in the Ministry of Education and Culture for 30 years. And now, without further ado, kepada Ibu Lili Nurlaili, you may start your presentation.
Tadi sebetulnya dia yang ngasih. Aku udah.
Thank you, Mbak Manet. Mama Manet, I just want to give explanation, a little explanation about the importance of blended learning in the present. I mean the present right now, because we have already COVID-19, and then little by little we more covering, and then I hope Corona is going. And this is important of blended learning in the present and future. My name is Lili Nurlaili. I'm Attaché Education and Culture, Indonesian Embassy of Manila from 2017. I'm still have Indonesian and English language. Pergeseran paradigma dalam pendidikan. We have a new rule from new Ministry of Education. We call that Kampus Merdeka. The meaning is university independent university, but not only university. We have another is Merdeka Belajar, learning independent. For the past and the present, and then for the future. At the past, teacher-centered instruction, but for the future, student-centered instruction. For the past, single sense stimulation, and for the future, we always using multisensory stimulation. For the past, single path progression, and the future, multi-path progression. For the past is single media, and for the future, multimedia. For example, we can using online or several program for Google Chrome, Google Classroom, or every multimedia to using teaching learning. For the past is isolated work, and then right now is collaborative work. For example, today we are making a webinar from different province in Indonesia. Medan is Medan, and then Lombok and Bandung. This is very far. If you want to going to Medan, you must take by plane is around 3 hours. And then if you want going to the NTB, you must take plane from Jakarta around 2.5 hours. And if you want to going to Bandung, you can using a bus or car is around 4 hours. And not only from several provinces in Indonesia, we are collaborative today with the Dean of Philippine Women University. And in the past, this is passive learning. We just watching what the teacher talking, and then the student just only listening. But for the future, we must active inquiry-based learning. And for the past is factual. Only just give explanation about the factual in the classroom. But for the future, we must using critical thinking, or we always talking that is hot, higher order thinking skill is C4, 5 until 6. For the past is knowledge based, but for the future, informed decision making. We have a lot of information, and then we must making decision which is valuable for you, and then which one is not valuable. Reactive response, and for the future, proactive and planned action. For the past is isolated, but for the future is authentic. For the past is artificial content, and then for the future, real world content. This is Indonesian language, berbagai istilah mengenai e-learning. It mean is a lot of meaning of e-learning. We using online learning, ICT based learning, web based learning, computer based learning, blended learning, distance learning, and etc. Intinya, pemanfaatan teknologi informasi komunikasi untuk mendukung pembelajaran. It means all of the activity that is valuable for the technology, information, and then communication to teaching, learning, everyday life. What the essential criteria for blended learning? First is keep each student engaged. It means is if you are still engaged with the student, not only just face to face, but you are still engaged student using online. That is number one of essential criteria for blended learning. And second, the strength of group work. What's the meaning? The strength of group work. If you have a class, maybe right now you have the class size is more than 30. It's too big. If you are want to making a blended learning, that is not more than 10 or 15% each group. And then that is very valuable and very interesting because you can still have a lot of time to discuss and watching what they are to do. Because right now, if the student using online, they just closing a video, and then the teacher don't know what happened with the student. Number 3 is request consider informal feedback. Okay, if the teacher already or finished using the teaching learning, they must know the feedback from the student. Maybe using online or just only talking in front of the video or the TV or online. And then management of time. This is very important for the essential for the criteria for blended learning. Because if the time is very a long time, the student maybe they are boring, and then they are just close the video, and the blended learning is not valuable again. The strength of group work, yeah. If you have just only a little one group, maybe 10 until 15, you must make a bigger and then very strength for each group. What kind of the strength? The activity may be different, one group and another group. Discover student way of learning. The teacher must know what the need of student to learning. Maybe they just only want to learning using activity talking, but some of them is very interesting if this learning using video or using another activity using TV and radio or anything else. The essential criteria of blended learning again is the content of educational quality. Yes, this is very important too, because if your content or your material is not interesting for the student, maybe your student not to watching until finish. Maybe they are just only close the video and then they not continue to teaching learning from you. And then expectation teacher and student. What's a meaning expectation? Before you are opening the material or teaching learning, you have to asking for the teacher, for the student, what they are expectation after finish this learning, what they are need after they are have a material from the teacher. Because if the teacher didn't know the expectation from the student, maybe the student just only follow but nothing for them, not valuable for them. And then create a learning community via social network. Yeah, this is now from the COVID-19, a lot of create and learning community using social media. You can teaching using messenger, using Facebook, using YouTube and everything. Knowing how maintain the student presence. Yeah, before the student presentation or present what they are to do, maybe you can asking which one they want to choose to maintain their presence. Because some of the student maybe they didn't have a lot of knowledge about using online or everything. And the last is request consider informal feedback. What the meaning informal feedback? Yeah, it means if you are just testing text sending using Fiber or using WhatsApp, every student in the class. That is informal because you not give a mark for them. Just only know about the activity today. This is important for the children or for the student or not important. Or maybe you want to need a feedback. What the next material for them? That is a request consider informal feedback. Okay, next is learning center. This is intended learning outcome. What do I want my student to learn? And then what do I know about my student? This is very important because if the teacher didn't know about the student, about everything, about they want the student they need, maybe the teacher is not interesting the material and everything, and then the student just only close the video. Okay, and then the assessment task. How do I know that learning does happen? That is very important because after you are teaching material, you have no the material is how much they understand. How come the material is very interesting, very important for them? And then teaching learning activities. How can I facilitate that learning? Yeah, because this is only online, we only maybe a lot of activity. If you are open YouTube, we found is 150 methodologies. But for online, maybe you can select it that is valuable for the children. And then maybe you can try which one of methodology is interesting for the children or for the student. Paradigm teaching learning, this is from teacher center to student center. We call that is Merdeka Belajar. or student independent or learning independent. Traditional, that is only one way learning. This is give explanation. Only teacher talking in front of the class, and they are only talking, and then the student just only watching. That is traditional teaching center. And then instructional two ways. We can using e-learning. Yeah, the teacher just only talking in front of the class or using a computer or laptop or handphone and everything. And interactive multi-ways, you learning. Yeah, this is a lot of activity you can using online, and then smart learning. What is blended learning? Partial delivery of content and instruction in a classroom, and then online delivery of content and instruction in a park. What blended learning is not: teaching through video presence, technology-mediated instructional strategy, online learning, informal learning through web resources, and e-learning, course of MOOC. The correct approach to the blended learning. The correct approach to blended learning is interaction in brick and mortar location away from home, segregate content suited for the F2F and for digitization, teacher-wise, grade-wise subject, and only assessment can also be digitized fully partially, advanced to asynchronous method, online discussion, assessment analysis, student feedback, online collaboration. But in Indonesia, from the Monday last week, we just only open several class from the senior high school and then maybe several university. All of Indonesia only 8% because much more or more of the province in Indonesia still red zone. And then the open university and open for the school that is a green zone. The advantages, blended instruction is reportedly more effective than purely face-to-face or purely online classes. Blended learning methods can also result in high levels of student achievement more effectively than face-to-face learning. Proponents of blended learning argue that incorporating the asynchronous internet communication technology into higher education courses serves to facilitate a simultaneous, independent, and collaborative learning experience. We call that is pembelajaran daring or online learning. Aspek yang harus diperhatikan, it is several aspect we must watching is course delivery, learning feedback, assessment and exam, knowledge mastery and rediscovery, assuring competency, learning outcome. By incorporating information technology into class project, communication between lecturers and part-time students has improved, and students were able to better evaluate their understanding of course material via the use of computer-based qualitative and quantitative assessment module. This is just still Indonesian language. This is the regulation from the Ministry of Education, higher education. What kind of the activity we can using online, or what kind of the activity we are using to practical implementation in the field. For example, number one is magang or internship. Number two is project in the field, and then a teacher in the class, that is student exchange, research, entrepreneur activity, and then project independent, and then project for humanity. But because of this situation, we can using this with using online. What kind of the activity or all of the activity using online? Maybe different university, they have different rule. For example, 2 days ago, I have an email from the university in Philippines. Maybe I just talk to you. FAU, Far Eastern University. They need invite the English camp, but using online. This is very interesting because this is the first time English camp using online, and that is free. And because of that, because that is the first time, I'm just invite several university in Indonesia to involve the activity English camp but using online. And thank you, maraming salamat. Terima kasih.
Thank you so much, Ibu Lily, for the very informative presentation. And now, Ibu, as of now, we have 2 questions. So let me read the question, Ibu. First, we have a question from Miss Marilyn Doro. Do you have a good internet access in Indonesia for student and faculty to follow the online or blended learning?
Okay, thank you, Miss Marilyn Doro. Yeah, Indonesia, maybe you know, like a Philippine. If Philippines have 3 big island, Indonesia we have 5 big island, but we have more than 17,000 a little island. That is very far, and then the access of the online is for the far area. The online is maybe is very difficult. Like in here in Philippines is the same. If they are not good internet access, we have several rule. For example, if the university using online and then the student cannot have money to buying online or website, something like that, the university maybe give just only a little money for the student for the lecture to continue their teaching and learning. But if they didn't have online or access internet, they not teaching learning using online. For example, several area in Bandung, I know just because I have a lot of friend in Bandung. For the very rural area in Bandung teacher, they can going to the room or the house of the student, but not more than 5 until 10 students. After they are visit to the house of the student, they are teaching face to face, but still protocol distance 1.5 meter. And then that is I mean they didn't using a blended learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu. Another question from Mr. Gregorio III Mendoza. Good morning. Simplified and modified learning module must be designed for distance education in order to make it reachable to the understanding of students, regardless they are fast or slow learners. May I have your comments on this? And in case the only learning modality is applicable to a certain place is modular learning, what will be the best strategy to teach skill to our students?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gregorio Tri Mendoza. If you want to simplify or modify learning module, maybe it's better you just communication with the student. Or if the student is very difficult to communication, I mean, what we must communication with student, maybe we can asking to them what kind of simplified or modified they are needed. Or we can open the online or YouTube or Google or something, anything else, we can found a lot of simplified or modified learning module, and then you can give explanation or modify too important or interesting for the student. And then if you are already making the modified and then the simplified learning module, but your student is not interesting, you can asking again to your student which one you are interesting. You can choosing which the model is valuable for you, which the model is interesting for you. It is very important to collaboration between teacher and student before they are teaching learning every day.
Thank you so much, Ibu. We have one question here, Ibu, but I guess Ibu can answer, and later also this question also I guess addressed to other speakers, since this one is asking about the response of the institution. So our speakers for today, they are from institutions, but if you would like to answer, Ibu, you may. How Indonesian government respond to the spring of universities or institutions who offer distance learning for their program? Is there any standards and regulation to follow? Would you like to answer it, Ibu, or we will let the speakers later answer it?
Okay, I'm trying to answer right now, but maybe all of the speaker give more information. Okay. Thank you, Mr. James Maramis, and then maybe Ibu Sri Wahyuni need give more information too. Thank you, Mr. James Maramis. For Indonesian government, for this situation, and then for the distance learning for their program, we have SPADA program, or for the student in the basic education, we already have Rumah Belajar. What is Rumah Belajar? Rumah Belajar is the English is the name is learning using home, or you learning from home. And then Rumah Belajar not last year open Rumah Belajar, but until now is 9 year. What I must to do, what I must explain about 9 year. That is Ministry of Education and Culture in Indonesia. They are already thinking about because of this pandemic, maybe the teaching learning for curriculum, if the teacher cannot until finish until 100% like years ago or 2 years ago, maybe the teacher cannot follow until 100% because of the situation, because of the module, because of the online and everything. And then we not using again examination using online or computer based because of the pandemic. Uh, just information, around from 3 years ago, for the basic education, junior education and senior education in Indonesia, for national examination, we are using online. But because of this situation, we not have anymore national examination using online. Why? Because at the time when we are using examination, national examination using online, it's not from their home. They are together. For example, 5 school is they are the same place, and then they are appropriate for the computer and then online. Not every school, something like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ibu. Maybe later we will ask the Ibu Sri Wahyuni and also the other speakers regarding the question after.
Or maybe Ibu Wahyuni want to ask answer to question for me, Ibu Sri Wahyuni. You are still there? Okay.
Okay, and now we will proceed to our next session. We will hear, for today we have four speakers. So before we call on the first speaker, we would like to remind everyone, for those who are asking about the certificates and also presentations of the speakers, later on after the webinar or after all the speakers, we will share to you the link of the presentation where you can download it. We will share the link, and also we will share the link as well for the certificate. So everyone, after the webinar, you just have to click the link, and then you can just download the presentation, and then download as well the link for this. For the attendance, we don't have attendance list, but this Zoom application, it will automatically record everyone. So everyone who are attending, who are signing in, and also signing out during the webinar, it will be automatically registered or noted by the Zoom application. Okay, and now let's proceed to our next session, which is for the first speaker. We have here from the Stikas Budiluhut Cimahi. She is the Vice President of Academic Affairs, Ibu Yosi Okri. Ibu Yosi, you may start your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Mary. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Before I start a presentation, I want to say thank you for Dr. Lily Nurlaili, MPD, Education and Culture Attaché Embassy, Indonesia Embassy, Manila and Philippines. Thank you for your opportunity, and thank you for all guest speakers, and thank you for Director of Budiluhur Institute Network for Education, Ma'am Sri Wayuni, SPD and SPSD. I will share about the implementation of blended learning in Budiluhur Institute of All Sciences. The first, blended learning background. Mainly the problem of education, staff and room capacity. And the second, the number of students. Third, room efficiency. Four, limited of teaching staff. And the last, COVID-19, new normal era, adaptation with new habit and new normal. And we have many definitions of blended learning, one of which, according to Samuel 2015, she said what blended learning just a minute. Blended learning combines the best aspect of online learning, structure of face-to-face activities, and real-world practice. Online learning system, classroom training, and on-the-job experience have major drawbacks by themselves. The blended learning approach uses the strength of each to counter the other weakness. And the other definition, blended learning is an integrated learning experience between face-to-face and online learning. Garrison and Kanuka 2024. So, definition of blended learning combine face-to-face learning and online learning. How about implementation blended learning? Learning in class, the efficiency of face-to-face learning. Face-to-face learning, higher learning outcome, for example, analysis level, and skill requirements, facilitate online discussion, facilitate active learning in small group and big class. And the activity of nurse study program academic level in Budi Luhur Institute of Sciences, we do learning online or alternative learning with non-face-to-face method, synchronous learning, online chat, video conference, and asynchronous, the most Google Classroom and email. In practical, simple and tools are easy to get, independent practice and recorded, and the last session, online method like Zoom, Hangout, and Google Meet. And in professional clinic practice, we learning online preliminary report and case study, breakdown, cognitive domain, the result based on active action target, webinar and seminar, and physical motor domain. At the end of pandemic independent, practical and objective structured clinical examination. An exam online test, the last and practice in community, volunteer task force of COVID-19, screening ODP and PDP, and practice family practice of conducting family in the student environment. And we get online health education through social media or health promotion. The online method used for learning, give assignment for students, quiz, midterm exam or final exam, online discussion by using chat, provide learning video, and provide reading or written material. And positive thing online learning, have more learning exploration, online application, understand the material on individual, can repeat the learning material, flexible times, no need to attend in campus, can do another thing more efficiently in doing tasks, independent study at home, can be with their family and minimize the COVID-19. Maybe that's all. Thank you for your attention. Maybe just that I want to share about the blended learning in implementation in Budi Luhur Institute of Health Sciences. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Ibu. For the participants, if you have any question. Okay. Ibu, maybe we can back this regarding the question from Mr. James Maramis, since Ibu is representing from the Stikas Budi Luhur Cimahi. Maybe we can hear something. How is the Stikas Budi Luhur respond or regarding this distance learning? Is there any standards or regulation to follow?
Yes. Thank you, Deskrima Stefan Mendrova. I want to answer your question. In Budi Luhur, we have the program practice and theory in class face to face, and we have to program. We must give protocol for pandemic COVID-19. We suggest okay, we have in method in Stikas Budi Luhur, we must the student who do clinic or practice are supposed to be rapid test and facility by campus if want to go practice. The student elector in practice style must wear a complete personal protecting clothing, APD, mask, and hand sanitizer. And the student elector must bring their own equipment such as culture. Just in Budi Luhur, we have get to the two combines face to face and practice in laboratory. But we apa? We focus with protocol for pandemic COVID-19. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu. How about the question from Miss Janita Kamsha? Good morning. How to maximize health practices for nursing students online?
Yeah, thank you, Janita Kamsia, for the maximum practice for nursing student online. Yeah, we practice in laboratory and make the protective with facility by campus. We have the practice in laboratory, and protocol health. We must wear masker and mask, hand sanitizer, and wash the hand, and this social distancing and physical distancing.
Thank you so much, Ibu. So how about another question from Miss Anita Shinta Kusuma? How about practice in hospital for nursing student in Stikas Budi Luhur?
Yeah.
So does the students from Stikas Budi Luhur still go to the hospital, Ibu? Apakah mahasiswa dari Stikas Budi Luhur masih pergi ke rumah sakit?
Okay, thank you for Anita Sintra Kusuma. Now, student from Budi Luhur not yet to go hospital. We have a program semester between by advancing course in which the credit theory and practice in the laboratory. For practice lab planning in January 2021. Thank you.
Okay. So for this is question Ibu from Deskrisman Stefan Mendrova. What are the difficulties encountered and how to overcome the problems? Is there any difficulties in the Stikas Budi Luhur in handling this pandemic or in handling this situation, Ibu?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Deskriman Sipal Mandrova. We have the program with the practice in hospital, and now we have I said that the last we have a semester between just we by attend course in which the credit or theory and practice, and the next January 2021 we have go to 2021 we go to hospital after COVID-19 is gone.
Okay, thank you so much, Ibu. Ibu, may I ask something? Is the Cimahi area in what zone as of now? Cimahi sekarang sedang di zona apa ya, Ibu? Zona kan tadi Ibu mention ada zona hijau, ada
kuning sekarang.
Yeah, yellow zone.
So in yellow zone meaning it's possible, but we have to limit the person, ya Ibu, ya, in terms of teaching. So in your institution, you have to still limit for the face-to-face, ya Ibu.
May I add to explanation Institute Health Sciences Budi Luhur?
Yes,
boleh saya nambahkan?
Ya, oke.
Okay. Before we in Budiluhur Institute Health Sciences, before we starting to we call new normal in the Cimahi area, we must to sending the letter for our government to talk about our preparing for starting to school to practice in the laboratory. In the past, we make the program for theory in the online, but for practice, we cannot make the examination for practice. That's why we make the program in campus, and we must to send the letter for permission for our government in the Department of Health in Cimahi, and we make the procedure and schedule for the our planning. In our regulation in higher education, we can make the program in campus, but the only limited until 50%. 50% depend on the area. We must to make the procedure for to preparing everything about the washing hand, for washing hand place, for the to make the schedule and everything. We must to prepare first before we get the permission for our government. And now we in Budiluhur Institute Health Sciences, we changed the program. We changed the program. For now, we starting theory for the next semester, and we preparing for the practice for the next year, because now we have the new now we have the yellow area again, and before in we preparing in the green, but now we have the yellow. We must to preparing for everything, and we must handle for our we must do responsibility for our student and our faculty. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Sri Wahyuni. So we would like to inform, as Ibu Yosi and also Ibu Sri Wahyuni mentioned, in Indonesia they have this zoning. So they have the green zone, orange zone, yellow zone, and red zone. So the area that is not possible for any face-to-face or which is the red zone. So since in Cimahi it's in a yellow zone, they are allowed to operate in their campus, but they have to follow the protocol for sure.
Protocol to help.
Okay, thank you so much, Ibu Yosi and also Ibu Sri Wahyuni. And now we still have one more question again from Ibu Nagoklan Simbolon. The question is, I want to ask, which is better, learning outcomes between face-to-face learning or maybe traditional learning with blended learning? Jadi, perbedaan antara traditional learning and also the blended learning.
Okay, thank you, Nanggolak Simbolon. In this situation, blended is best choice methods, because to face the learn have rise to transmitted COVID-19 virus. Okay.
Thank you so much, Ibu. And then next question from Mr. Nandang Khairari. Other than the internet connection for both student and lecturer, what else do we need to prepare so the objection for the study are met?
Yes, thank you, Nandang. Nandang Didi Hairari. Nandang Didi Hairari. We have the many methods. We can do sub-study by the material provided by the lecture, discussion session via Zoom meeting or Hangout meeting, Google Classroom, and video simulation. And we go to test the material. We have two students.
Okay, Thank you so much, Ibu. Another question from Mr. James Maramis. Related to the yesterday virtual nursing course held by the embassy, how to motivate our nursing students to actively involve in the blended program. In terms of evaluation, how do you accurately measure their achievements in each learning domain, especially in this pandemic era?
Yeah. Okay, thank you, James Maramis. We have the the program. Sorry, we have the program from the pandemic era COVID-19. We have the program volunteer transport of COVID-19, screening ODP and PDP, and we have the search case pandemic COVID in Cimahi and the environment student. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ibu Yosi Oktri. So again, for the participants, if you would like to ask some question, you may type it in the Q&A. Kepada peserta, jika ada pertanyaan, silakan bisa diketik di bagian Q&A. Dan sekarang kita akan proceed to our next speaker. And now we will proceed to our next speaker. Our next speaker is from Stikas Hamzar, Ibu Dina Alfiana Ikhwani. To Ibu Dina, you may start your presentation.
Hello, everyone. Okay. Firstly, I want to say thank you very much for your opportunity today. Everyone hear me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Now I want to present my presentation. It's about the learning method in the pandemic of COVID-19. Firstly, maybe I want to introduce myself. I'm a lecturer in Stikas Hamzar, and I'm graduated from Muhammadiyah University of Yogyakarta. And my concern is in nursing education. Okay. As we know, the spread of COVID-19 has affected the education system in the world. One of the big policies of our government is the learning from home. Even the academic institution had to shut down temporarily. Thus, we had to find a new alternative to academic delivery. Virtual classes, sometimes is the best solution. And in Indonesia, for education, there are some of the government policy. The first is how to develop online course until next year, with blended learning method. But especially for laboratory skill, we still need face-to-face learning by using protocol COVID-19. In Stikas Hamzar, we still prepare for the end of the semester. And the most important too is how to increase international relation and social care to either society. I think this is the main concept of blended learning, and some of the expert was explained before, but I want to explain more about the blended learning concept and some of the approach of blended learning. Blended learning involves the combination of face-to-face and technology-mediated instruction. There are two big main concepts of blended learning: face-to-face learning, and outside of face-to-face learning, and as we call it, online learning. face-to-face learning as a direct interaction, or which we call it synchronous learning method from student and teacher, and online learning as indirect interaction or asynchronous learning method. Face-to-face learning method is like traditional that make there are direct interaction from teacher and student. So when the student want to discuss more with the teacher, it will be happen in this teaching method. But to improve self-regulated learning, we still need online learning. In pandemic era, all interaction face-to-face or online or direct, or we call it direct or indirect, is still happen in virtual interaction. Maybe some of you have ever hear about blended learning, which flip classroom approach, and sometimes it's with traditional approach. So what the difference? Simply put, implementing a flipped classroom model is a blended learning approach. We are breaking away from a traditional and flipping our instruction around. We'll be teaching as a direct interaction in class would be given to students to watch or review material outside of our classroom. Okay, this is the main concept. Flipped classroom as a blended learning approach. Blended learning is an education technique involving a combination of online materials and in-person instruction. But flipped classroom is a type of blended learning where students view the lecture material at home and do coursework in class. But it's so different with the traditional method. For the traditional method, if the blended learning with traditional method approach, it will be lecture material in class and do coursework at home. So it's so very different. Okay, in the next slide, we can see some of the traditional, this is the two main approach of blended learning with traditional approach and flipped classroom approach. The main goal in flipping a class is to cultivate more deeply engaged learning experience for students when the instructor is present to coach and guide them. Basically, the concept of a flipped class is this: that which is traditional done in class is now done at home, and that which is traditional done as homework is now complete in class. And this is three main phases of the flipped classroom: blended learning with a flipped classroom approach. There are three main phases: before class, during class, and after class. Before class, the student should prepare more the material. So the student should know the material, what is the learning objective, what is the material. So while the student entering the class, the student have more ready to enter the class and still discuss more with the peer discussion or with the lecture. And after class, students continue checking for understanding what is the difficulty from the material or what should be improved more from the material in class. Okay, this is some benefit of blended learning if we do a blended learning with a flipped classroom model. Because the student have a prepare more before to attending the class, so it will be the student as a center, and the concept of knowledge is constructivist knowledge, not by just to share knowledge from the lecture. I think it's not a good idea. So put student-centered learning in the forefront and provide more opportunity for effective learning through activity. And this is the big benefit of flipped classroom because the talks is during the classwork, so it will be minimize homework frustration for student and parent, and allowing more quality time with family at home. And because there are tasking due in class, so if the student find a lot of difficult, the student can directly share with the teacher. So uh, it means allow students to get instant feedback due to teacher having more time to work in small group. Encourage, and the other is encourage student accountability, motivation, and engagement. And the next is teacher can spend more time to revise and working with students on concepts they may be having trouble understanding. Okay, maybe all of you have heard about Bloom taxonomy. So this is the differences of Bloom taxonomy in traditional model and Bloom taxonomy in fifth model approach. With Bloom taxonomy, that we want our students to spend of their time. Traditional instruction still assume zero knowledge of new topic coming into a class. And then the class meeting focus on the bottom half of Bloom and post-class work on the upper half. But in applying taxonomy of the flipped classroom, rather than just flipping the half, it's more helpful to break Bloom taxonomy up into the third. So I think the critical thinking of the student will be more higher in flipped classroom model than traditional model, because in flipped model the knowledge of the student before entering the class is start from understanding, not start from zero. Okay, because this pandemic, all of the activity is by online class. Okay, how flipped or blended in pandemic? The fact that COVID-19 has forced the move to purely online delivery doesn't mean educators can't flip learning activities anymore. The literature describes many advantage of flipped learning in medical and health science discipline. By asking students to prepare before the online lecture, they are similar become responsible for their own learning and developing learning skill. And face-to-face students will have their learning and teaching transferred all online. This is some of the challenges of blended learning that all of us currently find. There are some of the technology is still expensive for the student, and like internet access, computer, and inadequate training for the student or for the lecture, and some of the technology issue, not just one kind of the platform, but there are so many platform, and I think that may contribute to make some students to be confused. Okay, this is the virtual classroom defined. The use of real-time activities is for deepening science. There is no or limited face-to-face class. Getting even through free data is just but fine. The synchronous activities become the virtual classroom of the student, but for video conference is an option, but not recommended. But because in my location, it's still expensive for our students. Okay, this is describing about the learning activity implementation. There are three main points. As I said before, there are three main phases: pre-class, and then in-class, and then post-class. In this approach, the online contents are delivered before the class to the student and then discussed together with them in class. This approach requires minimals. Teacher get familiar with the content and also for the student. And with this approach, the teacher use the in-class time to assess how the student internalize the learning from video or textbook and applying immediately the learning on their project or assignment. The presence of the teacher was focused on promoting the discussion among the student and facilitating student to student interaction. I think that's all my presentation, and the most important is stay safe, stay calm, and stay positive. And thank you very much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Ibu Dina, for sharing your presentation to us. So a while ago, you mentioned the blended learning, the face-to-face, and you also mentioned this flipped learning, which is instructional strategy of the blended learning, ya Ibu, ya, which the lecturer will give the materials in maybe in videos or in online while they're at home, and then while in the classroom they just have to discuss it. So I guess I hope I get the flip classroom right. So and now we have some question, Ibu. Maybe first, a while ago the first question, actually this one is intended to the speaker, so I'm gonna ask you again this question, ya Ibu. So since Ibu in West Nusa Tenggara, ya Ibu, ya, the institution is located in the West Nusa Tenggara. So the question is same as the others. How the government in West Nusa Tenggara offer this distance learning? How do you handle this? Since you mentioned also that the technology is a little bit expensive in your area, so how is the Stikas Hamzar handle this situation? Or do you also have this zoning so you can do the face-to-face but in a limited number of students, or what?
Okay, I think because I think it's not easy situation, but I think it's a good challenge for us to make some new intervention for our student, especially in Stikas Hamzar, for the policy to make a good in distance learning, especially in theoretical, we still choose a good method, but not expensive, a good learning method, but not expensive, or a good platform, but not too expensive for our student, especially for chatting, WhatsApp chatting, Google Classroom, and still minimize for use video but we still use try to make asynchronous or synchronous still use, not just asynchronous but still synchronous. But we still use prepare for is this good or not method, or the second point is this not expensive uh, or good for our student, like that. And for the physical practice in the hospital, temporarily for Stikas Hamzar, we still, because we still in red zone, so we cannot go to the hospital. We cannot go to the hospital, but we have choose for some course that we can do it. We can learn from home, and we can go to without go to the hospital. Sometimes it's like community course, like psychiatry course. I think we can collaborate with the community. Some students can take a case near their house. So I think like this one, just choose some of the course without hospital, without should be or must be teaching in hospital, like that.
Okay, thank you, Ibu. Here we have question from Sir Gregorio III Mendoza. Good morning. Face-to-face class discussion is impossible for us right now, given our present health situation. How do we convert our immersion duty in caregiving class into other online modalities?
Okay. The main concept of the blended learning is face-to-face and online method. But in pandemic, I think face-to-face learning or face-to-face by physical interaction is so difficult, right? But for the theory concept, face-to-face is we still use by virtual class, online class too. But this is I still read some of the journal said blended learning. There are main concepts face-to-face and online. But for the face-to-face, if in the pandemic era, it's so I think it's impossible or possible, but we still use protocol COVID. I think we can use for the interaction by virtual. There are direct interaction from student and teacher by virtual class. Still use synchronous, but from online class it's mean indirect discussion for the student. It's like just there are material in the platform, in one platform, and the student can read by themselves, and it can make involve the self-regulated of the student.
Okay, so
You get my point?
So example, Ibu, you have this caregiving class. Since, as we all know, we cannot do some practical or any practical in the hospital or in the institution. So how are you gonna convert from the as we all know, for the subject we have this theory and practicum. So from the practicum, how do you convert it so that you can teach it in the students?
Yeah, but especially for practicum, because it's like skill and psychometric. As we know, for the psychometric and skill, for Sikas Hamzah or for we should prepare. We cannot change by virtual class, especially if we learn about catheter, how to use catheter infuse. I think there are so many instruments and procedure and we can't buy virtual. I think we should wait for the more good situation, or we still use protocol COVID, and then we still use protocol COVID, and maybe for Stikas Hamzar, we still wait for the next semester. But for the theory, we can combine with virtual classes
Okay.
or study cases with virtual classes.
Thank you so much. Any additional from Ibu Yosi or from the Stikas Budi Luhur regarding this question? How do you convert the immersion duty in caregiving class into other online modalities? Do we have some additional information here? Atau, or maybe it's same ya. Jadi Stikas Hamzar and also Stikas Budi Luhur maybe have the same. So as for now, there is still no practicum or no doing some practical in the hospital and also in the school. So they are more on theories. So more on learning about the theories first, and then maybe after everything is okay, the situation is clear, they can do some practical in the hospital. So is it the same?
Yeah, sorry, but for the some for learning method like case study, I feel we can use the video or maybe from YouTube or the other platform, and we can discuss with our student. But it's still in the prior, it's still in the knowledge, not for the skill.
Okay. Yes, Ibu Yosi, do you want to add something? Apakah Ibu ingin menambahkan?
Now in Budi Luhur, not yet go to hospital. We practice in laboratory, not yet go to hospital.
Okay, so you still have this caregiving class ya Ibu ya. Jadi those apa yang bisa dikerjakan praktik masih bisa ya Ibu ya.
Yeah, we go to practice in laboratory in Budi Luhur.
Okay, so another question here from Mr. Muhammad Minshar. I have a question as a student. How to maintain our mood to always increase our knowledge in pandemic era? More on, I guess this one, mood, emotional aspect.
Yeah. Okay. Some of the studies say blended learning is a good method to improve motivation of the student to get more information, because there are three main phases of the blended learning with flipped classroom approach. There are traditional approach, but with flipped classroom approach. And some of the studies say with flipped classroom, blended learning with flipped classroom can improve the motivation of student learning. Because with flipped classroom, there are three main phases. The first is the student should prepare more, and the student know before attending the class, the student know about what is the learning outcome, what the learning outcome for this study. So the student clear about why we should go to attend the class. So what is the important to attend the class, and what I should prepare. So it can make more some of the students be more motivated to join in the class. Okay, and more ready to join the class, of course. Okay, this is so as a lecturer, we should more give some of our students not just one method, but there are so many methods of learning method, not just blended learning, but with traditional method approach, but blended learning with flipped classroom. But this is just one example, something like that. And before the other the other strategy for the student, I think you should, I have ever read some of the journals say the main concept of this situation is we should positive, we should have a positive thinking, not just a student, but a lecturer too. This is the main point. With have a good positive thinking, the pandemic will be stopped soon, and this condition can improve the art, can make can be opportunity to us to improve ourselves. Maybe before we know about online strategy for study, but from now we know about online, and we can explore more the knowledge from the online course. I think like that. We should positive first, and then the second, we should have more strategy because we have more we have a crisis. So I think we have a more strategy, effective strategy. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
A little bit choppy, but yes, we can manage. Okay, so Ibu here, we have here another question from Ibu Nagaplan Singolon. You mentioned a while ago regarding the Bloom's taxonomy. So, how to do taxonomy Bloom 3.3456 can be achieved in class with flipped learning, and traditional learning can be achieved 3-4-5 face-to-face class.
Pardon?
Actually, I don't understand. How to do taxonomy Bloom can be achieved in class with flipped learning and traditional learning.
Okay. How to achieve taxonomy Bloom? As we explained before, how to achieve for flip classroom, as we explained before, there are three main phases before the class, and in class, we can the taxonomy Bloom is not just by understanding, not just in understanding or remembering, right? But before attending the class or in class, they are out class atau in atau online class atau before the class, it's still the students still prepare. So it's mean the taxonomy Bloom can be not just zero, not zero, but still in remember and understanding before the class. The student have prepared, and in attending the class, the taxonomy Bloom can improve because there are discussion activity, not just from peer discussion, not just by peer discussion, but lecture discussion. There are more discussion. There are talks, not homework after the class, but there are more talks, and the student can take discussion more. So, and when the student give some difficult, the student can ask the lecture directly. So it can make the taxonomy Bloom from the just remembering improve to the application, improve to more level. Because there are direct interaction. There are direct assignment. Hello, you get my point? But for the traditional approach, is there is no prepare for the student. There is no activity before the class. So if the student attending the class, it start from zero. And the taxonomy Bloom just start from the remembering and understanding. But from flipped classroom, it start from understanding and improve more. Do you get my point?
Hopefully, Bapak
So
Ibu Nagoklan Simbolon got your answers, Ibu, ya, regarding this taxonomy bloom. Okay, now
So
Ibu,
the
have
achievement.
Yes.
So the achievement of critical thinking, I think, it will be more higher, blended learning with flipped classroom than more than traditional approach.
Okay, we have one question again here, Ibu, from Mr. Emilson Vibar. Good day. Students' learning can also be influenced with his or her mental health state. Question is, does Indonesian students encounter mental health issues when the pandemic emerged? If yes, how do universities and schools in Indonesia provide psychosocial support to students who are faced with mental health issues such as depression and anxiety?
Okay, I think it's a very good question, and especially because this is not easy situation. This is critical situation. For the psychology problem, we will back to our. I want back to our to my explain before. To prepare our student, as a lecturer, we still keep communication. The first strategy is we still keep communication for the student, like as synchronous or asynchronous method, and not just direct communication, but like as we can use like as a teacher, we write on some platform that student can access and can read more about how to prevent ourselves for distress or for stressful because this pandemic. The lecture activity of Stikas Amzar is there are so many there are so many motivation from the teacher. The main point is the keep communication for teacher from teacher and student, and the second is how to explore more method that not make boring our student. I think this the other strategy maybe maybe I think it's not easy, but maybe we can still positive thinking, like what I said before, not just for lecture, boring, stress, not just happen in the student, but still for the lecture. So still positive thinking. We still need some effort to make still positive, and like that maybe.
Okay, thank you so much, Ibu. How dari Budi Luhur, apakah ingin menambahkan sesuatu? Ingin menambahkan from the Budi Luhur? Is there any additional regarding the question on how handling this? If there's any students facing this depression or anxiety, Is there any support to the students?
Enough, Mom. Sam, that.
Okay, so maybe we will proceed to our next speaker. Before that, thank you so much, Ibu Dina Alfiana Ikhwan, for your presentation. Thank you so much. So Ibu Dina is from Stikes Hamzar, West Nusa Tenggara. Okay, and now our next presenter, she is the Dean of College of Nursing of the Philippine Women's University, Dean Dr. Minerva de Ala. Dean, you may start your presentation.
Thank you, Monet. Okay. Dr. Lily Norlaili, invited speakers, participants, good morning. This morning, I will be sharing with you a brief discussion about e-learning and blended learning, some practices that are being observed by the PWU School of Nursing on blended learning. The objectives of this session are the following: to describe online learning, to discuss blended learning, including its benefits, advantages, challenges in the implementation, models of blended learning, as well as the best practices in the implementation of blended learning. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought extraordinary challenges that affected all sectors, including education. Attention, focus, effort of every people are directed towards to contain and prevent further transmission of the infection. Majority of the colleges and universities around the world have temporarily closed the classes just to contain the spread of COVID-19. This closure has affected more than 1.2 billion learners worldwide, with more than 28 million learners in the Philippines. And according to the article of Michael Katapay, the new normal post-COVID era opens the opportunity for rethinking the goals of education. This is to make the curriculum more relevant, appropriate, and responsive responded to the challenges brought about by this pandemic in order to provide and sustain quality education despite of activity restrictions, lockdown, community quarantine that hinder students to attend face-to-face learning classes. The Commission of Higher Education granted higher educational institutions to practice academic freedom and should implement distance, e-learning, and other alternative modes of delivery to students. Today's webinar theme is about blended learning for nursing in Indonesia and in Philippines. As a Filipino educator, I would only speak and could share to you some of our practices in terms of the implementation of blended learning in the School of Nursing of Philippine Women's University. Let me begin by describing what is online learning as compared to blended learning, because these two terms are used interchangeably, but literally by its description and on the manner how these approaches are carried out, we can clearly differentiate and understand the similarities and differences of these two learning approaches. Okay, online learning is catalyzing a pedagogical shift on how the teacher now may teach and how the students learn from the teachers. There is a shift away from top-down lecturing and being passive students to a more interactive, collaborative approach in which students and instructors co-create the learning processes. E-learning, or what also known as, aka as online learning, refers to the use of digital technologies to deliver complete learning programs wherein lectures, assignments, tests are all enabled by the virtual platforms. Universities and colleges using online or e-learning must have a reliable virtual platforms or learning management system or LMS, example of which are those with Moodle, Blackboard Collaborate, Canvas, Camilo, OpenEdX, Totara, Edmodo, and Schoology. Participants of an e-learning program can take part in all sessions from the comfort of their homes, meaning they don't need to come to physically to their school, as long as they have computer and an internet connection. Also with this approach, there is a shift of the instructor's role from being judge on the stage to the guide on the side of the students. Okay, the minimum requirements for students to participate in an online course is the access to a computer and an internet. But more significantly is the motivation of the student to succeed in a non-traditional classroom, which I do believe most of the educators here present would agree with me that this is most challenging and the most important component for us to consider in teaching and learning processes. Online class provide excellent method of course delivery and bound by time and bound by location, allowing accessibility to instructor at any time from anywhere. Now, to compare this online learning to our topic today, the blended learning. Blended learning is an approach to teaching and learning that combines the traditional face-to-face classroom and online mode of delivery of lessons. Now, for the difference of online versus blended learning, to help us differentiate these two approaches in terms of technology. Now, for blended learning, the use of technology is only one of those mediums that helps facilitate the learning experiences of students. It plays a supporting role in the delivery of instruction. Compared to online learning, technology plays a critical role in the delivery of the instruction. So that is very important. In terms of learning environment, okay, blended learning is interactive and immersive in nature that enables the students to different stimuli, thus encouraging them by what they have learned. So this may be in a form of a component. There is a virtual online component and a face-to-face, or if not allowed at this time of pandemic, we are doing it with a synchronous class via online. Now for e-learning, learning materials can help participants or students to participate, cram theoretical concepts into their minds, which often lack of substance because of the lack of face-to-face discussion. Now, in terms of the benefits, okay, this allows to stimulate students to active, bringing about the shift from the lecture to a student-centered learning. So now the student is now the center of all the activity with teaching and learning activities. It encourages interaction between students and student teachers and the various resources used for the instruction. Now we have different models of blended learning, as we have the rotational, the face-to-face driver, the flex model, the online lab model, the self-blend model, and the online driver model. This would somehow somehow help the teachers to figure out what's the best combination of these models in the component of online to deliver a comprehensive course instruction. Blended learning topics are also prepared using creative multimedia tools, and they are presented through the use of online medium and classroom sessions. This is to engage students in an interactive activities like discussions, debates, oral presentation, and clarification of any questions. Okay, with this, allow me to show some of video clips that will further explain what blended learning is and its benefits.
Today I'm going to be talking about blended learning environment and what is blended learning. First off, it's a fairly complex model, so I'm going to divide my presentations in two parts. Part 1, I'm going to talk about what is blended learning in general, and part 2 will be about the benefits of such a learning environment. So, part 1, what is blended learning? Well, it's a combination of two models. The first one, we all know it. Teacher, students, a regular classroom setting with the board. Basically, the teacher is delivering content and leading the instruction. It's a traditional model that has been in place for a long time, with the teacher facing the students and the students facing the teacher in a brick-and-mortar school setting. This model is called a face-to-face model since we are facing each other in the physical world. So, this is the first component of the blended learning, that very traditional model of instruction. Now, something happens, and we all know it. It's called internet, and that changed a few things. Now students can access content online, cloud-based, which means they do not need to be in school anymore to access instruction. And that changed a few things. They can work at home, in a coffee place. They can actually almost work in the school bus on the way to school. Wherever they are, as long as they have internet, they can access that content. This model is called online teaching, since you are learning and teaching online. It's a very common model in higher education these days. So, what is blended learning? Well, it's a combination of those two models, the face-to-face model and the online teaching model. Now, let's have a look at an example. You're going to have students watch a presentation, and they can be watching that presentation on blended learning, for example. With cloud-based devices, they do not need to be in school anymore to hear your lecture. They can watch your presentation pretty much anywhere and wherever they are, as long as they can access that content. And then, you can have a discussion on that presentation in school with the teacher monitoring the exchanges and leading higher thinking activities. This is not just about discussions though. It could be a group project, it could be a writing assignment. All those tasks can be conducted in both environments, face-to-face in school and /or online on internet. Blended learning is a combination of those two models. So, what blended learning is about is how much you want your teaching to happen online and how much you want it to be face-to-face. It could be a teacher or a school decision as well. What matters the most though is to create a community of learners where students can exchange, discuss, and work together on both environments, face-to-face and online. What are the benefits of such a learning environment? Well, this is going to be part 2 of the discussion, and you can find that presentation on my YouTube channel or on my blog. Thank you for watching. Au revoir.
When you think of learning, what comes to mind? Undoubtedly, your thoughts will turn to the traditional classroom, featuring an instructor standing in front of a group of students, imparting years of wisdom. In recent years, you may have been exposed to WBT, or web-based training, also known as e-learning. The benefits of learning online can't be ignored. Less travel, learning at your own pace at the time of your choosing, and wearing your pajamas to class. Classroom learning typically succeeds or fails based on the abilities of the instructor. WBT learning succeeds or fails based on the quality and instructional design of the learning module. So which is the best way to empower your team with the skills they need to be most effective? In short, neither. Rather than making the decision to go with just one form of learning, why not combine the best elements of both? Blended learning does just that. It takes WBT and combines it with classroom instruction to create a learning experience that produces better learning outcomes in a shorter time frame with a higher job skill effectiveness. So how are these amazing claims achieved? We start with the top-of-the-line, interactive, online learning modules that allow the student to grasp the foundational information at their own pace. Frequent knowledge checks, practice, games, and user interactions keep the student engaged. Post-tests measure the student's command of the content and point to any weak areas that need to be improved. Next, students gather in a classroom environment where the instructor is freed from spending valuable time covering the basics. Instead, the instructor builds upon the foundational knowledge and introduces higher-level concepts, which are then related to the student's specific work responsibilities. When appropriate, the class will work through a related project together to put all they are learning into action. Be warned, however, that simply because you have WBT paired with a classroom event does not guarantee a successful blended learning outcome. The OpusWorks cloud-based learning platform has been finely tuned over many years to orchestrate successful blended learning classes for both students and instructors. Modules, testing, assignments, materials, games, videos, class dates, message boards, instructor chat, class polling, project tracking, reporting, statistics, and more all combine to form the backbone of the learning experience. When teamed with properly trained instructors, the results are simply unbeatable.
Okay, thank you. Okay, to expound the discussion of blended learning, it afforded one, greater time flexibility, where students are not entirely dependent on the fixed time frame and they have the autonomy to participate during their own convenient times. So they can do the learning activities at their own pace as long as they can comply the deadlines that are being set by their teachers or professors. Two, there's a lack of dependence on the teacher's time constraints, where students can have the utmost control of their time without being compromised by their teacher's schedules. With the online component of blended learning, here, our students can proceed with their learning activities because on the very first day of the class of each courses, uh, our teachers both in the undergrad and the graduate school have posted their course outline or the course syllabus that contains all the learning activities in a weekly basis. So the students are already guided what are the things that they need to accomplish. So for the time being that they are allowed for this online component, they can have their own research, they can have their own thing to comply with all those requirements. But in between, of course, teachers can always be reached by the students if ever they find difficulty in complying those requirements. If there are some clarification, they can always reach out to their teachers. So number three, blended learning gives time for reflection, where students are given ample time for substantial thought expression and an ample room for creativity and imagination in doing their learning activities. Number four, this approach also meets the different learning style and the different needs of the students. We all know that our students are unique. Each one of them have different needs and learning styles. So these learning choices and pattern are also addressed with the use of blended learning because a lot of tools that can be utilized by the teachers both to face and in online components. Significantly, blended learning approaches meant to increase the level of active learning strategies, peer-to-peer learning strategies, and learning-centered strategies, and allow students to participate in learning opportunities collaboratively. This can be done by the group activities being can be executed during face-to-face, like in the form of role-playing and other activities that are being designed by the teachers on each courses. This will also increase social interaction inside and outside the classroom. Also, blended learning expands reach. It brings together the best to both classroom and learning on e-learning, classroom learning during the face-to-face or the synchronous or through virtual discussion. This allows direct interaction between the learners and the teachers, as well as the learning through hands-on activities. Now, during this pandemic, okay, what we're doing here, no, is the teacher can reach the students even they are in the provinces. They enable us to conduct discussions which are being facilitated by different modalities, either synchronous or asynchronous, by the use of different platforms and apps like Zoom, Google Meet, GoToMeeting, or others way. Or if not, they also can be reachable. We can reach them through a messenger or even emails. Blended learning increases engagement, as we discussed with the previous slides. This is realized as the learners participate in face-to-face discussion and interaction with relevant video, audio, text presentation, and other types of bite-sized content, wherein they are more likely to engage and retain information. And they apply as to the different learning activities being implemented by the teacher. Also, blended learning provides useful references. Online learning in conjunction with face-to-face learning, so that makes blended learning provides platform for organizing and presenting material that might be needed by the learners to prepare for in-class activities. Here, the teachers, what we're doing here, the teacher may provide PowerPoint presentation, either in soft copy or into some who even wants the student may want to print these handouts. So there are instructions given, assignment for their learning activities. These are all posted online for the student to study and work on in advance. This allow our students to better prepare to any scheduled synchronous classes. So what we practiced before, we have this concept of blended section with our graduate studies, wherein there are certain Saturdays that are being allotted. If the teacher will call for the students to come to school, this is what we call the face-to-face component of their study. Now with this pandemic, we are doing this with a live lecture through Zoom, or in some topics which seems to be critical to the students. This is usually discussed during live or virtual lecture discussion with teachers and the students. Also for this, we can utilize this as an example, no? For the undergraduate courses, like in health assessment class, perhaps we can utilize video demonstration of the physical assessment, some skills procedures that can be posted or uploaded online in advance for students to view it again and again, and for them to study. And this will enable the students to perform better during the face-to-face class or the virtual class sessions. Also, blended learning facilitates collaboration. Delivering a blended learning strategy increases the opportunities for students to collaborate, which results in a deepened learning experience by utilizing online tools to complete certain tasks like lecturing via Zoom, Google Meet, to present a lecture or courses or course contents. The faculty of the School of Nursing utilizes, as of now, most of them are using Google Meet, Zoom, or some of our teachers in the graduate school. We have some using Sway or other means like, the messenger. They're using also that to reach out to students. Okay, number 5, blended learning simplifies assessment. Okay, the use of face-to-face learning with online tools simplifies the assessment processes. for the teaching and learning. Using online tools, the teachers can quickly and easily administer quizzes, tests, in order to assess how the learners are doing. So in LMS, there are, or in some other platforms like Google Classroom, no, there is a provision that the teacher can administer quizzes, um, literature review, and some essay questions, which the teacher could utilize to gauge how far the students learn with the coursework. Now, now let's go now to the drawbacks, or what we call simply the challenges on the implementation of blended learning. One, the absence of an institutional vision shared with the frontline teaching staff or our faculty, where there is a gap in the area of capacity building for blended learning, together with the expected level of engagement for the teaching staff. What does this mean? So simply, for the university to implement blended learning, there should be a good technological infrastructure, which include devices, enough in ratio with a need, good internet connectivity, capacity building to train all teaching staff or the faculty for technological literacy, or commonly known as computer skills. Now, what we did in what we're doing in PWU, we had series of webinars conducted to equip the faculty on the basic and the complex computer operations. We call it training 100 and training 101, and other use of LMS and virtual platform forms, which are delivered by the faculty who are members of the technological delivery teams who are in charge of training the faculty regarding this matter. Okay, the number two, the lack of adequate institutional support for blended learning may also decrease the motivation of the instructors to transform their courses into blended format that can discourage their commitment for a change. Now, so aside from training the faculty, with computer literacy, so there also the need of training them to equip them with what are the different teaching methodology or approaches that is tailored or more suited for blended learning approach. So we have this seminar or webinar, which was being conducted by one of the professor, Dr. Sikat from the School of Education, where he delivered the different, or he discussed different approaches on how to make our courses more lively, more interactive to the student. And also with this training, the teacher somehow feel, though it's not so much extensive because we only had it with webinar, but at least we were given with some basic information, because it somehow equip us to improve our course outline that is more suited for blended learning approach. And by that, somehow we feel that the institution or the administrator had this sense of being caring to us to embrace this change because of this pandemic situation. Now, number three, we have the negative perception by the instructors. There are some instructors, despite of webinars that are being conducted, there are some questions on their mind, or even some may verbalize some resistance for change. But to speak for now for the School of Nursing, I'm very happy because all of our faculty are, they are very cooperating. They are so much engrossed and so much excited with this new approach of blended learning. That's why they have the 100% attendance of all webinars in-service trainings that are being conducted by the learning delivery teams and the technological delivery teams that are being organized by the PWU administrators. Number 4, we have the students' motivation. This makes blended learning most or very challenging. There is a need also to conduct general orientation so the student may understand why the university is implementing because of this sudden change or the crisis that we are now facing. So uh, to sustain the delivery of instruction, we have to do some approaches in order to make education be realized in this time of crisis. Okay, in the current situation, we are adopting flexi learning modality in Philippine Women's University. So I speak for the School of Nursing to deliver our course instruction through the use of platforms like the Google Classroom, apps, as I mentioned, the Zoom, the Sway, Google Meet, GoToMeeting. This is for us to afford communication, to reach our students, choose communication to be possible between teachers and the students. Now, for this coming first trimester, we will start our classes for the undergrad by August 3 and for the graduate school by August 8 of 2020. Okay. To the use of Google Classroom, we can have our Synchronous teaching and learning activities where our teachers will allow our students to do their research, comply assignments, and at the same time, we will meet them or conduct virtual classes via Zoom or Messenger or other apps that could possibly do it. Now, for the laboratory courses, now we are hoping if we could meet our students for the return demonstrations and skill enhancement before the trimester ends. So, this for this first trimester, the level 2 and level 3 nursing student opted not to enroll the related learning experience component of the professional courses, but only enroll the lecture portion. So before we come to this decision, we called for a town hall meeting through Zoom, wherein we asked the students' opinion as to how their expectations and as to how they wanted their courses to be delivered. And majority of this level 2 and level 3 students opted to have their lecture be enrolled only in this first trimester, and it will enroll the related learning experiences on the latter part. Though the level 4, we have here the one section for the graduating students, they opted to enroll both the lecture and the RLE component, since this would be their last trimester with us. So what we will do here for these graduating students is, for the first few weeks of the first trimester, we will have the lecture portion. We will also have series of instruction. The RLE activities can be carried out by alternative learning activities, as what that said is also pushing the higher institution that we can do alternative learning activities for this pandemic time. Now, hoping that as this condition will be more, calm and more okay, we hope that by the end of the trimester, we could conduct face-to-face skills enhancement with our graduating students. Now, as the news last night, the Secretary of CHED already announced or already mentioned with the meeting with the President of the Philippines that they are encouraging the university or higher institution to have the practicum component to be done on the latter in the last quarter of the academic year 2020-2021. So meaning that would be on either in the second trimester or the third trimester. So I was listening last night. I was happy because this is just being congruent with the decision of the level 2 and the level 3 student. But of course, for the graduating students, we understand their choice because they want to graduate soon. But for that, we, of course, with the help of our clinical coordinator and clinical instructors who are be handling this intensive practicum, we already drafted clinical activities for the students to work on for this coming first trimester. Okay, now for the best practices in the implementation of blended learning, there should be a design to meet the learning outcomes, but not merely to rely on the technology. So even though there is a component of technology, the teacher has to be very innovative, has to be very resourceful in order to meet the learning outcomes of the student. So there are variety of approaches on how teacher will deliver so that the students' attention could be catch because if there is monotonous uh, delivery of instruction, they feel boring. So teachers should also consider learner preferences and content. So to sustain student attention and listen to our lectures and discussion is really a big challenge for the teachers. So again, let's make our approaches more festive, colorful, engaging. So we have to be student centered. And of course, don't forget, even though it's student centered, teachers is always at the side, ready to make an enhancement. Number 3 is consider full range of option of teaching approaches to meet the learning outcomes. So again, this is with the use of different approaches. Blended learning could also enable collaborate learning. Students should be actively participate, not only as passive learners. So let's design our activities in a manner that students should be fully engaged. Help them do research, help them do some reporting work, critique of research work. Of course, that is in align with the topics that you are discussing. Number 5, ensure that all components of blended learning. So we have the two components, the online and the face-to-face, and the synchronous activities are equally valuable. So we have to balance the technology-based learning with that of the face-to-face learning. And more importantly is to prepare the students. Now, for the Philippine Women's University, they already have a schedule for a general orientation with the students as well as to the parents by the third week of July, wherein it will be participated by the new, the transferee, and the old students. Of course, there would be presentation for the different programs or department, including us for the School of Nursing. This will help somehow, uh, you know, this avenue we can now also explain to the students and teachers the manner that we design the blended learning or the flexi learning that we're about to we continue because in the third trimester actually we already did the blended learning to in the delivery of the course instruction. Now, for the synchronous conceptualization of blended learning, okay, the reason why I want to discuss this matter because this pandemic really, the cases of COVID-19 in Philippines, as we hear from the news, is again now increasing. Now, the quarantine status of National Capital Region and other regions like Cebu is still on general JCQ, general quarantine condition or status, wherein there is still some limitations, restriction. And of course, opening of face-to-face classes is still not allowed. Now, how will we do the blended learning if face-to-face is not allowed by the government? So we're hoping that we could have that at the last week of the first trimester. But on the meantime, we cannot just do all delivery of instruction through online. But from time to time, we have some virtual online classes, which the teacher will have to schedule it with the students. We look to it that scheduling of classes are being observed by the teachers and the students. For example, if my class is 8 to 9, I can only conduct my virtual online class live within that hour, so that there would be no conflict of a schedule with other subjects and with some other activities of teachers of other subjects. Okay, so blended synchronous learning is described as learning and teaching where remote students participates in a face-to-face classes by means of a rich media synchronous technology, such as video conferencing, web conferencing, or virtual classes. So this is usual, and this is already practiced by the undergrad and the graduate school classes of the School of Nursing. Okay. What about the digital classroom conceptualization of blended learning? So this is the online portion or the online component of blended learning, which of course we already have been implementing this as one of the rich component of blended learning with the use of Google Classroom. Okay. I would like to read, before I end, I would like to read some powerful words about blended learning. Okay. Blended learning or blended instruction is what the teacher does with technology. Blended learning is where students use technology to have control over path, place, and pace. And learning is more effective when it is active rather than passive process. In short, blended learning is a model of instruction that allows teachers to leverage technology within his or her classrooms to maximize student outcomes and increase deeper learning. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you so much, Dean, for your very well informative presentation regarding blended learning. A while ago, you mentioned that there are 5 blended learning effective delivery. You have to expand reach and then increase engagement, provide useful references, and facilitates collaboration, and also simplifies assessment. As we all know, during this pandemic, we have no other choice because there's a lot of places that face-to-face is really not allowed. So without any choice, I guess we have to do this blended learning, especially that online distance learning, because it's too risky if we have this face-to-face.
Yeah.
And now we have, Dean, we have here questions addressed to you po. So first question here we have from Miss Imelda Sirait from Stika Santa Elizabeth. Could you please explain to us how you teach your student by using online method? Can you give us tips and tricks to make our online learning method interest?
Okay, thank you for the question. Okay, actually, this online learning is not new to Philippine Women's University. I want to walk through with the history of online learning. So I'm talking online learning, not blended learning yet. So way back to year 2000, we already have this online learning. We have this virtual platform that is being designed by the University ICT. We call it VLES, Virtual Learning Environment System, that caters the graduate school of education, and also for our graduate school of nursing for Master of Arts in Nursing, to those students who are in the province or in other countries. Okay, now because innovation is innovation is there. From VLES, we move into the use of Moodle or the Blackboard Collaborate for, I think it's like 3 to 5 years that we've been subscribing the Blackboard Moodle. And I'm happy to say that the School of Nursing is so much, of the utilization of the Blackboard Collaborate for the thesis defense of our students who are in the provinces, and also for the undergrad students. Some of the faculty were using it, including myself. So for the question on how we will make use or maximize the utilization of online to make to meet the learning outcomes of our students. Now currently from VLES to Moodle, now we're using the Google Classroom. So there's a transition. But now for any whatever platform, whatever LMS your school is using, technology is only one component for the success. I believe most of you will really agree as educators. What we're uploading in the system is more substantial than what the technology tool could offer to the learning and teaching processes. Because even how good is the features of the LMS, if our contents, to begin with the course, the course outline or the course syllabus, which is very important. Let me quote with a statement of our Chancellor, Dr. Felina Yang. She said to us that this is the binding contract of the teachers and the students. So we are morally obliged, all teachers, to upload the course syllabus even before the first day of the class. Why? Because this contains all the summary. What are the expectations of the teachers? What are the requirements? What are the references? What are the topics that are included in the course? Now, to answer your question, for you to have a meaningful and more successful implementation of online or even blended learning is to have a very comprehensive course content, starting from the course outline. Oh, yes, it should be aligned with your university vision and mission, and all those learning outcomes should be specified in it. Of course, it's also one factor even during this pandemic. So given with that, good LMS, uh, comprehensive course content, and of course approaches of the teachers. So do not rely more on online component of blended learning. You have to mix it with Synchronous one. So with this pandemic, we cannot have the face-to-face. What we're doing is to have online classes, especially those lectures, topics which are very critical that needs the guidance of the teacher. Okay, I hope I answered the question.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We have another question here from from Miss Wulan from Budi Luhur Institute of Health of Science. It's very pleasure to see you again. My question to Dr. De Ala: what method are currently being implemented in blended learning at the Philippine Women's University?
So as I mentioned in my presentation, we use the Flexi One. The flexi one meaning it's like a hybrid form of blended learning wherein there is a face-to-face and asynchronous and the synchronous session with the students. So that's it.
Okay po. Dean, we have another question from Miss Celeste Di Maculangan, from Dr. Celeste Di Maculangan. How would you meet the expectations of the students, especially in related learning experience in both online and blended learning?
Okay, for the expectations, how to meet the expectation of the student pertaining to the related learning experiences of the student. Okay, let me repeat again. For this first trimester, the level 2 and the level 3 nursing students of Philippine Women's University School of Nursing opted not to enroll the related learning experiences component of their professional subject because they wanted to have more hospital experiences or bedside experiences with the student. Now, we respect with the decision of the majority of the students. The reason why we called up for a meeting because we ourselves, no, including me, really feel that having an experience in the hospital cannot substantiate whatever what whatever alternative activities that we're doing to expect for our learning outcomes to be met. So that's why we're postponing the related learning activities of level 2 and 3 on the second or third trimester as soon as the government will allow us. Now for the level 4, since this is an intensive practicum, this is very crucial. That's why I already worked with the clinical coordinator, with Ms. Macaraeg, to have the enumerated alternative learning activities. And so far, this is still ongoing process. She already submitted me some activities, like for example, with the skills inventory, the presentation of videos. But I think I still feel that there is still a need more activities to be done in order to meet the learning outcomes of this course. Particularly, this is an intensive practicum, and we know what are the strengths and the weaknesses of this group. That's why we're trying to design a comprehensive activity. Now, I'm happy to share with you that the university president also had coordinated with other presidents of the universities in Metro Manila to come up with a subscription of Lobster. I think that's an app that is good for skills demonstration. There is a certain amount of payment, so that's why we committed to have that subscription because it will help out our faculty to come up with scholarly demonstration. Because YouTube is good, but there are some entries. I'm not saying YouTube is not good, but it's good and informative. But sometimes we have to really screen out what are videos that we are considering if we are talking with uh, you know academic activities with our students. But this Lobster, I think this is because there is subscription. I think that's very good, and it will help us in coming up to complete with this design. Now, for the question how we could measure, or how will we know to if we already had we answered the expectation of the student. That's why we're making up the program, still on the making. I hope we could finish it this week, because what the coordinator had submitted to me, there's still comment coming from me. I think she feel that I'm doing some more hard time for her of coming that comprehensive, because I want the student also to feel that they will be satisfied because they are our clients. Okay, and hoping with as the government will allow us, we will bring them to the agency, like in the community where they still have a lack of experience, and some special areas which they need to complete their cases. We're hoping that we could do that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you po, Dean. Another question, Dean, from Miss Abigail Tandilani and James. If I were the teacher's supervisor, in terms of quality control and improvement, what would be the things that I need to make sure that the teachers are implementing a quality blended learning?
Okay, so I will speak for our experiences or our practices in Philippine Women's University. Now we're using Google Classroom. Me as the dean has the access to all classroom activities that are being conducted by the teachers. I am tasked to monitor and make a report whatever engagement of this faculty and the student engagement to a particular course. That's why uh, in my inbox I had a lot of emails because all answers, all feedback, all answers coming from the students, feedback coming from the teachers will pass through to my inbox. So I'm receiving like 200 emails in a day just because of the requirement being posted by the teachers, the students, as well as the feedback given by the teachers to the students. So in that way, with the access, I can somehow monitor. But because of academic freedom, I of course always respect. There are some approaches that are being practiced by the faculty, but in the event that I see that the teacher is only very passive, the student keep on posting, but no, there's no feedback, even for how many weeks. I could always call the attention in a manner that we will be, talking it in a manner professionally. So with the access, it's one of the measures. Not only me, also the LMS coordinator, Dr. Mincita Dumlao, has the access. And for the attendance, the component of teachers' attendance online because of compensation, the one HR employee is also has the access to see to it that the teacher is doing the online class religiously and diligently. So that's how toxic are we doing. This is to ensure quality.
So you are really monitoring it.
Yes, because I am tasked every 15 days. I'm doing the report prior to the cutoff. If I don't give a report, they will not receive their salary. So that's how toxic we're doing.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dean, for that answer. And now we have here another question from Miss Renee Rose Padilla. I guess this question is addressed to our speakers from Indonesia. Is it possible to teach virtually the skills needed, like in RLE? RLE.
Yes. We have that. I included with that with my previous speech during my speech with the previous team that we do like demonstration, recorded demonstration, because there are some procedures that cannot, is not tailored to Philippine settings. There are good videos of nursing procedures, but the instruments cannot be, it's not available in Philippine setup. So what we will do that is we will have this recorded demonstration wherein the teacher will come to the school, to the skills laboratory, and assemble all those equipments, make a video with the help of our multimedia team, and to record that procedures. This now the soft copy of the recorded procedure will be shared to the students so they could view it online. They will perhaps they could practice it their own, then they could master somehow, but of course we have to schedule for the return demonstration as soon as the government will allow us. Now, one of our assistant faculty, Professor Alicia Lupena, who already came to Philippine Women's yesterday the other day, last Wednesday. She already assembled all those equipments that she needs. And we will schedule the recording of the demonstration perhaps in these coming days.
Thank you, Dean. Ibu Yosi, apakah ingin menambahkan, Ibu, mengenai pertanyaan? Ibu, maaf Ibu, soalnya di sini Ibu want to answer this question live. Maaf, apakah Ibu ada tambahan? Mengenai pertanyaan, is it possible to teach virtually the skills needed like in RLE? Ibu Yosi, apakah ada tambahan Ibu? Di sini di pertanyaan yang is it possible to teach virtually the skills needed like in RLE? Maaf Ibu, Ibu masih ke mute.
Forget. Sorry. Domain cognitive can be used in virtual, but for physical motor and skill, it can do it in virtual because it's supposed to be used in the real case that happen in hospital. Also must do the practice and human, not and robot on robots.
Thank you so much, Ibu, for the additional answers. And I guess some of the questions in the Q&A already answered directly during the explanation of our speakers. And now we will proceed to our next speaker, our fourth speaker for today. We have here lecturer from Stikas St. Elizabeth, Ibu Lindawati Farida Tampu Bolon. Ibu, you may start your presentation.
Thank you, Ma'am Gonzalez.
Maaf, Ibu, are you gonna operate it or do you want us to operate it from here?
I think it's better if you help me.
Okay, Ibu, we'll help you then.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for moderator and to all speakers. Good morning for all of us. On this occasion, I would like to share about implementation of blended learning on St. Elizabeth Medan. And as you know that until right now, Medan still in red zone of COVID-19. For the first, I would like to introduce our institution. Stikas St. Elizabeth Medan is located in Medan, North Sumatra. We have 5 study programs. They are Diplomacy of Nursing Program, Diplomacy of Midwifery Program, Bachelor of Nursing Program, and Profession of Nursing Program. For this program, we have 2 program permit from Ministry of Education to organize Bachelor of Nursing Education. And then Applied Bachelor of Medical Laboratory Technology, and the last Applied Bachelor of Management of Health Information. From those programs, nursing students are the most. Right now, we have about 655 students of nursing. And our vision is being a superior health education institution in emergency service based on Christ's healing power that heals as a sign of God's presence and able to compete at the national level of 2022. Okay, talking about blended learning, like other speaker has told us, blended learning is an learning process that combines various learning strategies. In blended learning, we have to combine two or more learning methods in an effort to achieve learning objectives. Implementation of learning with blended learning allows the use of online learning sources such as Google Classroom, Edmodo, Zoom, social media like Twitter or Facebook, YouTube, or other application of learning. And blended learning is the learning process consists of components online learning and face-to-face learning and also independent learning. If use only online learning without face-to-face learning, it's not blended learning. There is a scope to identify if one program is online learning or blended learning. I'll tell you in the next slide. So in blended learning, lecturer has several roles. And the first is facilitate students by providing independent assignments to be completed by students, then directing learning activities, and then monitoring student learning activities in the network by involving applications that are already available. You can use like WhatsApp, Google Chrome, or Google Classroom, Facebook, or other applications that support the process online learning. Then the question, how to create blended learning. Before we implement blended learning, we have to consider the following aspects. The first is learning outcomes that we want to achieve. And then we have to find relevant learning activities. Next, we must determine which activities are relevant to conventional learning and which activities are relevant for online learning. Especially in nursing, we have so many practical learning. You can learn from YouTube about how to give intramuscular injection, for example, but then they have to get practice in laboratory by using phantom and then doing the activity to patient in hospital. Even though in hospital, for the first step, the students must be accompanied by clinical instructor. So in this situation, of course, we can't use online learning, not online learning. And then the next aspect is how to deliver the content. What percentage is for face-to-face learning and what percentage for online learning. This is the scope that I've told you before, according to Allen theory. If only face-to-face learning without online content, we call it traditional learning, or some people say conventional learning. If we use online content about 1 until to 29%, we call it facilitated by web. In this scope, learning uses web facilities to facilitate something that it is very important in face-to-face learning and use only a course management system. But in blended learning, or sometimes we call it hybrid system, learning combines face-to-face and online system. The proportion of the online content is about 30 to 79%. So sometimes we use online discussion and sometimes use face-to-face meetings. And if the learning use 80 until to 100% online system, we call it online learning. In Stika St. Elizabeth Medan, we use about 50% online system and 50% face-to-face learning. Why? Because we have so many practice. If only communication practice, we can use online system. But for activities like injection, we must use face-to-face learning or besides teaching in hospital. So actually, we have used blended learning before COVID-19. We have tried to applicate or to implement the blended learning before COVID-19, but maybe only 40%. But after COVID-19, I think the percentage is over than 50%, but still in the range 30 until to 79%. And in Stikas and Elizabeth Medan, we have academic class for Bachelor of Nursing and clinical class for Professional of Nursing program. Before COVID-19, in academic class, we still use combination between face-to-face learning, online, and independent learning. The method that we use in face-to-face learning are presentation by lecturer or students in front of the class, assessment, simulation, and training in laboratory, and also one-on-one coaching. We use one-on-one coaching, for example, is for final year students who prepare their research or to train students who have low practical ability. In online system, we use virtual classroom like Google Classroom, Moodle, or Zoom Board meeting, WhatsApp, webinar links, video simulation from YouTube or created by students and lecturer, assessment, and one-on-one coaching, but by video call. So still one-on-one coaching, but we use video call. For independent learning, we use project-based learning, journal analysis, literature review, and small group discussion. After COVID-19, from March 2020 until right now, we only use online learning and independent learning, but most of the subjects are for theoretical topics. We still learn about nursing practice, but only by video. Our students make simulation from their home and we watch them. Then we make evaluation from their simulation. But we have prepared special time for them to do practice in laboratory after government give us permission to do face-to-face learning. And for clinical program or profession of nursing program, before COVID-19, the method that we use for clinical class is pre-and post-conference, clinical tutorial, bedside teaching, case discussion, case report, presentation, and small conference. But after COVID-19, we discuss case study by using Google Classroom, Zoom, or WhatsApp, teaching and supervision by video call. For example, the stage which is in geriatry department, so students have to assess elderly people in their environment or their family and try to find the problem from the client. And we try to monitor the process by using video. And then we ask the student to create media for health education and health promotion. After the process, students make report and present the report in small conference by online. And then other method is clinical tutorial and journal presentations. That's some methods that we use in clinical program or profession of nursing program. And the last is about, I think next slide, still next slide. The last, we have 5 main keys to implement blended learning. The first is live event, direct learning, or face-to-face synchronized in the same time and place, or at the same time but different place. Like us right now, we have same time but in different place in Philippines or Manila in Indonesia, Medan, Lombok, Bandung. It's live. And then self-paced learning combines with self-paced learning, which enables students to learn anytime, anywhere by online. And then the third is collaboration, combining collaboration, both collaboration between educators and students, and collaboration between students. And then assessment, lecturer must be able to mix a combination between online and offline assessment for test and non-test or class project. And the last is, next slide. And the last is performance support materials. Make sure learning materials are prepared in digital form, accessible to students both offline and online. This is actually one problem in our institution because before COVID-19, our students lives in our dormitory, but after COVID-19 from March until right now, they live in their house in many places in Indonesia, Kalimantan, for example, Nias. So there is a problem sometimes about internet connectivity in their place. So we must make a good communication, must make collaboration. What the best time we can meet face to face by online system to create learning for the students. So I think that's all I can tell you about the situation in Stika St. Elizabeth Medan. I hope it can be useful for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Linda, for sharing us how the St. Elizabeth handle this blended learning. And also, Ibu, you mentioned that in St. Elizabeth you already you have this online learning and also blended learning. Yeah, Ibu, you already do this in order, since you are still not allowed to have this face-to-face, yeah, Ibu. In your presentation, you mentioned that there's 80 to 60% for this online learning.
Yeah, because actually it's different between online and blended. Blended is combination, so not only online but combination. So don't afraid. For example, for major like us nursing, we can't do only online learning. You know that because we need to like Yossi said that practice is practice. Even though we can learn from video, it's different. We have to do. It's about the psychomotor and skills. So we have to make online, of course, online for knowledge and practice or face-to-face learning for practice, especially nursing practice.
Thank you so much, Ibu, for that explanation. And now for our participants, if you have any question, you may type it in the Q&A. If you have any question or clarifications to our speakers, from our first speaker to second speaker, third speaker, and to fourth speaker, you may ask your questions. Yes, do you have any question here? Some of our participants to make it in the panelists, if you would like to ask a direct question, you just have to raise a hand. Jika ingin bertanya dalam bahasa Indonesia, silahkan. Ya, jika ada yang ingin bertanya, kami persilahkan. Jika tidak ada, kami ingin mengucapkan banyak terima kasih. Thank you so much, Ibu Lindawati, for your presentation. And also thank you so much to all the speakers from the Stikas Budi Luhur, from Stikas Hamzah, from Philippine Women's University, and also Stikas St. Elizabeth. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and also sharing some strategy on how to teach on how to do this online learning or or this blended learning in your institution. And now, before we end this webinar, let's hear a message from Ibu Lili Nurlaili.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mama Net. I'm so sorry because today we are finished because I need the long term and long time we can discuss maybe the whole day. Why? Because I think this is very interesting, not only for the Indonesian nursing, but for the Filipino too. And then we can we have information activity blended learning for nursing in this situation for the pandemic, and then after maybe a little bit September, or I hope October, all of the university is open. But we're not so sure because until now the pandemic is still in Indonesia and still highest compare in Philippines is still highest. But we only hope, and then we are praying every day. We hope COVID pandemic is going is gone. Okay, thank you, Mama Net. Thank you all of the speaker, Mam Din Minerva De Ala, yang saya hormati juga Ibu Sri Wahyuni dari Budi Luhur, Lindawati Farida Tampu Bolon, kemudian Ibu Yosi Oktri dari Budi Luhur, dan kemudian Ibu Dina Alfiana Ikhwan dari NTB. And then for all 96 participants from Indonesia and Philippines. If you need a certificate and then link of the material, maybe my staff is already put there, the link and then certificate. And I hope we meet again for the next webinar because I'm already making several webinar collaboration with the BIN for Edu. Under BIN for Edu, they have a lot of nursing faculty or a lot of nursing student from all of the Indonesian province. And BIN for Edu around every 3 months or 6 months, they are coming here in the Philippines. They are bring around 30 until 50 students studying here on the or workshop in the several area in the Philippines. 2 weeks here, they have a lot of experience, and then most of them is working in another country. Yeah, Ibu Sri Wahyuni, maybe you can give explanation after this about the activity of BIN for Edu.
Yes.
Okay, I'm closing the ceremony, and after that, maybe Ibu Sri Wahyuni give explanation about the activity of BIN for Edu because it is important information for all of the participants in here. And then dengan mengucapkan Alhamdulillah, saya tutup acara webinar webinar hari ini. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih, Bu.
Terima kasih Bu Lili. Sekarang Ibu Sri Wahyuni, if you have any message.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for all participants. I show in the picture. I think the participant more than in the Zoom, ma'am, because some of them, especially students, they join in the YouTube because it's the price for lower than Zoom. Hopefully they can accept about the certificate too. We have the list because they following in the YouTube, in our YouTube, in the Hamzah YouTube, Santa Imelda dan Stikas Budiluhur, and in your YouTube. Thank you for Ma'am Lily for this opportunity. Next August, we have planning a collaboration webinar with the Attache Education to make the webinar about specific area about the how about in the part in nursing. We have the theme for theme again about the how the pandemic in the caring of the for the child for the in community area and about the health psychic healthy. We will sharing about the schedule and the participant. We hope to join about the other webinar to our member. And thank you for next. Hopefully, in the pandemic, Ma'am Lily, we can still collaboration with partnership discussion with like benchmarking, looking about our curriculum in meeting in Zoom because some of our member wants to discussion deeply about curriculum with our partner and in the Philippines. Hopefully for the next agenda, we will make the other activity to implement our MOU, not only sleep MOU, because usually to support us to develop our member to implement our MOU. And hopefully, if the pandemic is gone, we starting to make collaboration with the student exchange, faculty exchange, and especially in joint research, Ma'am, we must to support to join research. Starting now, we can to make the meeting about the joint research, especially in the COVID-19. Thank you for your attention and thank you for our partner from Philippines and our friend from Philippines. Maraming salamat, maganda hapon.
Thank you, Ma'am Sri Wahyuni. And then for certificate and link, you can open above the link of certificate and then link of the material you can download. Thank you, Ma'am Anet.
Okay, again, for the certificates and also for the materials for today's webinar is the link already shared in the chat box. So you just have to download it. You just have to click it and download it. And for the certificate, you just have to fill up some details about you, and then your certificate will automatically send to your emails.
Thank you.
And we would like to say thank you very much to all the participants and also to all the speakers for today's webinar, Blended Learning for Nursing in Indonesia and in Philippines. Thank you so much. And hopefully in the near future, everything is okay and we can do some collaboration, not only via Zoom or any application, but also in face-to-face. Thank you so much and have a nice day ahead and keep safe.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you, Ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lily and the organizers.
Dari Melapas. Bu Sri Wahyuni, dari ini dari
Oh yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, from Aguinaldo University.
Yeah.
Around 2010 or 2013, a lot of